You should not have to do it with adults, but you could. Ideally, people should be responsible by the time they're 12. By the time they're 12, they have a very good sense of other. They have developed empathy, theoretically. They have a social conscience. They should be able to do this stuff. By the time they're 15, it should be part of their hierarchy of values, you know, or it's not happening, and that's partly our business. Oh, sorry, yes, I should have got a mic moving.
Even if they just stand up, if they could stand and
okay, that's good.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, thanks for feedback. Yeah, that's useful. Okay. The comment was that even in, what year level was that? 9 and 10, kids would bring their equipment and attempt the work because after small segments of work, a comment was made by the teacher on the work. This is at year 9 and 10. So even at year 9 and 10, they were happy to have something they could show to somebody else to say that they were very productive, valuable people. And I think that's something we overlook sometimes, that they still need it and it would be still valuable. Anyone else want to make a comment before I move forward? Yes. Would you stand, please, so we can... Oh, you've got a mic.
No, I don't need
Oh, you don't need a mic.
I think last week praise and recognition got a bit of bad press, or in the sense that I got, that in terms of the reward, but it's so powerfully linked with relationships, and that's what's starting to evolve this morning. So that was a takeaway from last week, that perhaps it really didn't have the bad press, because success with younger children in developing those relationships is all about praise and recognition and who gives the praise. So if it's a teacher making a comment, or to take it home and share with someone else, or smiley faces, or whatever the currency is. You chose hard currency, which many people would find deeply offensive, and others would say that praise and recognition, if it's a reward, obviously at year 8, a snake's not worth a pinch of pixie poo, but a chance for the boys to get outside when they've got some sort of point to do, and have some sort of control or choice, is a good thing.
Yeah.
So I think that the whole notion of praise, not in a disciplined sense, but in to find out whether or not kids choose, is important.
I agree. The hard currency was for hard player. The particular issue we had was a very challenging kid who, if you praised him, probably would not believe you. And so that's one of the issues we had to deal with the Ds. Sometimes, unless you've got a D who's still got some faith in himself, and so his behaviour pattern's not chronic, but once you've got that far, you know, a kid, if I praised him, he would just, in some cases, unless I had a really good sort of relationship, working relationship, and lots of trust, he wouldn't believe it. You know, he'll find it really hard to believe that I could think he's worthwhile, or that I saw something of value in him or in what he did. So that was just the one side. So I think that's the other thing that's happened here. We've gone from the hardest case, and we're trying to work out a generalisation for everybody. But we'll come back to all this reward stuff, or recognition, as I'd rather call it, sort of stuff, in about 2 minutes. Because I'm going to ask you, what would you do tomorrow? And what would you do for the Cs and Ds? And what would you do for a D who thought he was not valuable at all, and your praise would just go straight over his head? What would you do? Would you do nothing because it's offensive, or would you do something? If so, what? That will be my challenge. I don't know. Okay, any other issues you want to raise from last week? You've done a good job on it, by the way. Yeah.
When I go into a classroom, when I've been invited into a classroom due to a situation, I no longer take the child out, or I see the child in the corridor, I will just say, wait here, walk in and say to the teacher, you need to now talk to that child. I don't talk to them anymore, because as soon as I walk away, that problem then goes back into the classroom and there's no relationship building at all with the teacher. I actually had one teacher say to me, that was the best thing that you could have ever done for me. In that classroom. So that child then went back into the classroom. I looked after the class while the teacher spoke to the child in the corridor for a couple of minutes.
Excellent. Yeah, that's excellent feedback.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it's good. Okay, anything else here we go. That's where we went, right? First of all, and we're saying it may be debatable, and we're not sure now whether that's 45 to 55, but certainly as of 1997 it was, and, 2003 it was. So I'd be interested to see what's come out of it since. That was the second thing. And as you said last week, And as the research suggests, and as we've said here, referent, reward and expert, if the kid can read, are the best powers. In other words, expert depends on the child feeling that they will gain from your expertise, and in order to do that they need to engage the curriculum and they need to have the capacity to engage the curriculum. By year 8 they have severe gaps in their background, so they cannot engage the curriculum in many cases. They cannot even read the assessments, even if they can read the texts, so they can't perform. And anyone who's seen a Year 8 science test will know what I'm talking about. It's actually quite a complicated bit of writing. So expert is the iffy area. The other two are pretty safe. But having said that, we know that that's not what's happening. Or maybe we don't. I gave you homework. Do you remember? It was a sheet which said to look in your own school and tell me what was happening, or tell each other what was happening with power. It was power analysis. It was a sheet that you had last week, and I made reference to it. I'll tell you the number when we find it. No. No. Oh, well, maybe you didn't. I thought you did. Yeah, it'll be one of these, I think. It looks like that. And it reads like this. You ready? And it relates to the last comment. Who speaks with isolated or exited students? What's the nature of the talk? Estimate the proportion of your staff who highlight rules versus rights and responsibilities. How do teachers set up rights and responsibilities at the beginning of the year, or rules? Interview. Anyone do an interview with an A, B, C and D kid? Pity, great research project. Had you interviewed them, it would be interesting to ask them why they think they have to come on time, not move around, don't talk when people are talking, don't swear. Anyone do that for one child? Okay, you did? I'm impressed. Did you do it for an A, B, C, D? Yes. You prepared to talk about it? Okay, where's that, if you would? Okay, so this is... First of all, let me ask you one question. Was it worth doing?
Yes, definitely, it was worth doing.
Okay, I want that on record, okay? Look to the camera and say it was definitely worth doing, because this is important. This is how... See, if you're in a constructivist model, I can tell you stacks of stuff. It's going to waste your time. The only way you'll engage it is when you develop some insight into data that challenges your schemas. That's what we understand about education. So you've got schemas, you understand the world. If this interview was any benefit, it would have changed something. I don't know what, or maybe reinforced something, but you'll tell us, so go for it.
I was really surprised to see the concept that these children had. I teach Year 1-2s, and some of the responses they gave me I didn't think they would have given me. I asked some pretty basic questions. For example, why do you need to come to school on time? And the responses that I got from the A, B and C students were pretty similar. So we don't need to waste our time we need to catch up on learning. We don't need to waste time on catching up. We find it important to join in guided reading and don't miss out on any teaching and learning. And my D students gave a response so we can spell new words, which wasn't really related to the question. I asked questions of why we don't need to run around the room or why we don't need to swear. And my A, B and C students were very similar, giving responses related to the school values, though my D student had very different answers as well. And his replies were because it's against the rules. And I thought that was a big impact for me. Some were related to the values and my D student was related to the rules. So,
what are the values related to?
Well, at the beginning of the year, we set up the Quality Startup program, and it's related to the respect and friendliness and cooperation.
And why do we have to be cooperative and show respect?
Well, this is to get on with their learning and to treat each other nicely and to...
So get on with their learning would be one, which is interesting because your first one spoke out of self-interest in learning.
Yes.
Did they speak out of the impact?